if we look at the IPv6 allocation distribution, since already here the numbers are, this is the numbers that we can see. What we also done at the area level, it was to registry checks. It's a kind of audit. Basically, what we tend to do is to contact all LARs and say, okay, are you aware that you have an IPv6 allocation? Are you aware that it's not visible? Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Xavier. I work for the RIPE NCC, and I'm going to present some numbers about IPv6 deployment in France. Basically, this is a view or from an area, meaning a regional internet registry. So all the number that we gather in terms of allocation, announcement, it can be also assignment. It doesn't mean that it's only the RIPE NCC member. It can be also end users information. So what I would like to show you is, first of all, what we are trying to achieve. It's basically to try to answer this question. Is it going all well? So these numbers are just a way to test the waters, basically. If we look a bit more in details in what we've been looking into, we've been looking into, first of all, the IPv6 allocation, how they are done, and basically what are the numbers of those. After that, we've been looking at are they routed and are they used. So that's the three criteria that we looked at. So if we look at the IPv6 allocation distribution, since already here the numbers are around 10,000 LARs have IPv6 allocation. Today it's around 1,100, so it's already grown quite a bit since the last stats have been produced. And as you can see, the rate of LARs without IPv6 didn't grow much. So it means that it's around 3,500 LAR that don't have any IPv6. This is for the overall region. So if we look in France, it's around 30% of 874 LARs that do not have any IPv6 allocation. So we could ask ourselves, okay, why is it a bit different here? So we try to get those numbers a bit closer to see what is the current state of affair here. So IPv6 enable means, you know, address pairs that are v6 that are announced by an IS. So they could be anycast, they could be PI or portable type of addresses, or they could be also allocations. So here you can see that the yellow line is the overall country of the region. So in France, it's around 35% of the entire v6 that is visible or announced via an IS. So it shows that it's a bit, well, it's above the average. So now let's compare with some countries around, just to make an idea where we are at. This is roughly the overview. So the red line is still France. You can see the orange line, which is Belgium, that is growing also really quickly. And Germany, which is around 50% of all the IPv6 address space that is assigned or located there, that is announced by ISIS. So this is stats that you can find on the IPv6 Act Now website. So we have a lot of information there. You might want to look it up sometimes just to have an idea. It might be also a way to show that to your customers, for example. Now, another way to measure IPv6 in our region is not only about how it's announced by the end user or the LARs, the local internet registry. It can be by the way of RIPEness. So RIPEness, what it is, it's a way for measuring allocations, for example, if they are announced, if there's any reverse DNS, and of course if they are announced, if there's a Route 6 object in the RIPE database. So if basically an LAR would have done correctly his job. This is really interesting data because we can see that overall, if you look in the whole region, there's around 14,000 LARs, and 21% of them have those 4 stars, meaning they have an allocation, they route it, and they do reverse DNS, and at the same time to also have a root 6 object in the RIPE database. Here in France is a bit above it, so it's 25%. So, you know, if you look at this, it gives some hope in itself, because it shows that we are trying to do the right stuff. So if we look in a bit further in that, so we try also to measure in more view, basically. What we try to do is to have what we call the 5-star. It could be another way to measure. It's to look at basically at the edge of the network. So meaning we look at website, for example, the website of the LAR in our region. So let's say 874 LAR's website. We compare with the Alexa list of website. Basically, we compare the one from the LARs, and we try to reach them in IPv6 to see if they are reachable. So you can see the small graph. I don't know if you see it correctly, but the content itself reach in France 2.2%. So it means 2.2% of all the LARs in our region have, or in France, have a website that is IPv6 reachable. So that gives a kind of idea about. We had the allocation, we had if it's announced and if there's reverse DNS, but it shows also the content itself. So basically their website is not IPv6. There's another stuff that we looked at, and this is from IPNIC actually. I don't know if you're aware of, IPNIC is the Asian Pacific area, and basically Jeff Houston and George Michelson run a lot of IPv6 measurement. And what they did is to look at the access, so more at the end user perspective. And what they looked at is around, in France, it's around 3.8% that are reachable. So it gives also a perspective of what needs still to be done. So this is for the reaching the end user. If we look in IPv6 in Europe, this is still data from the Asian Pacific area, so from IPNIC. So it shows here the capacity, or the IPv6, the network that are capable to do IPv6. So in France, we are around 14%. If you look at the other players of the area, so Belgium is on top position with a 53% of IPv6 that are basically announced by an AS in that specific, with that specific country code. So it can include also, it's not only about members, it's about network announcing IPv6. So Switzerland is in second place, and after that you have Greece, Germany, Portugal, and France is at, it's on around 14%, is at the last of this list. So it gives you also a form of ideas of how we are doing compared to other areas. Okay, so now from their website, what you can find is also who are the ISs that actually are performing well. So in announcing IPv6 address space. So here you have the list of the different ISs that are really doing well in capacity. This is again available on the IPNIC website. So this is also showing capable or preferences. So it compares the dual stack and basically see if an end-to-end session is done in IPv4 or on IPv6, which network will have the preferences. So it's here it shows the percentage on the right-hand side is all about the prefixes run by that ISs, if they are v6 or not. So we can see, for example, Renate having 81%, which is quite a good result. You have a whole list there. If you want to consult, there's quite a lot of interesting information. But it gives you an idea of how the visibility of v6 is. Now, this is the numbers that we can see. What we also have done at the area level, it was to try to see, okay, what happened over time, and basically why people stopped to announce, for example, IPv6. So we ran a survey. We looked at all the IPv6 allocation, and over time we looked at the one that were not announced. So it was 30 LARs in France that were not announcing them anymore. So we tried to look up as why. And basically, they were like testing mostly with an IPv6 allocation at the beginning. And what they did after that, it was just, okay, we unplug or we turn off the V6 network. So we try to know, okay, but what was your experience? What was your reality? And basically say, well, for more than 60% of them, it was like, yeah, it worked all fine. It's just that the guy who was busy, for example, with the network, went to another company and didn't leave anything with that, or for example the hardware was changed and they were encountering specific issue, didn't want to iron the problem and just preferred to stop announcing IPv6. They were also like what they came back with as a reason why, it was a lack of demand from the customers. So this is something like we want to also, will customer will ever ask specifically IPv6, because what they want is their service to run, that it's V4 or V6, they don't really care so much. Another thing that was really coming back as experience or reason why they were stopping to announce was the monitoring tool missing. So basically they were used to do stuff with V4 and all of a sudden they were having issues with V6. So this is something that, for example, us as a community, meaning the RIPE NCC, provide, for example, training course that is IPv6 or basic or advanced, where we try to do hands-on exercise on specific stuff. It might be a way also to stop a bit this myth and inhibition and basically try to make it happen. So we try also to do kind of tips of addressing plan that can be via, I don't know if you ever heard of that, it's called assisted registry checks. It's a kind of audit. Basically what we tend to do is to contact all LARs and say, okay, are you aware that you have an IPv6 allocation? Are you aware that it's not visible or there's inconsistency? And after that we try to push them to go, for example, to an LAR training course in the area. Like that they can get used to also communicate with people around and exchange about V6, because it's all about it. Also what we do to try to improve it's at the government level. We try also to provide training or different meetings to also make it possible to have, for example, at the government level, a form of way to pass on the information. So that's what we've been trying to do to try to make it better. Because on those numbers that we've seen, you know, we are in 2016, and it's true, in certain area, it's not going the way we would expect. So this is more, for engineers, it seems to be okay, you know, meaning V6 is okay, but it means that there's another OC layer where it's not working properly. So I think this is something that if you want to discuss, there's no problem, there's open questions. This is it. Any question?
Yes, hello. It's more like a precision. For the APNIC measurement, it doesn't measure the announced IPv6, it measures the actually used IPv6. They have their system with Google Ads that do measurement. So if by chance you get the pub on some Google page or any web page, they have I don't know what, JavaScript or a Flash something which does an IPv4 query, an IPv6 query, and tries to see whether the browser of the people having received the advertisement in a web page can actually generate IPv6 traffic.
They do several types of measurements. On the specific that I was mentioning, it's about the capacity. If you look at the measurement information, this is where I gathered my information. So on the APNIC website.
Okay.
If I may make a remark, a criticism, the different ratings that you show were based on different criteria. You should really, on each slide where there is something like number 1, number 2, number 3, add the criteria used, because it's a general problem with IPv6 measurement is that anyone can be number 1. It depends on the criteria you use. So that's in line with the previous remark. That's why it's very difficult to measure IPv6 deployment. At least you should be very careful to every time repeat what was the criteria.
So you mean the routing, the allocation, the routing, and the end user? Okay.
Also usage, like in the case of IPNIC or things like that. And for instance, at what moment you mentioned only the website in the Alexa first million, and then you said website. No, it's not the same thing.
Yeah. No, correct. I will take good note of that. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. I will be around if you have any specifics for your LAR or stuff like that. Don't hesitate to approach me. Thank you.
Thank you, Xavier.